Okay, hi everyone. Welcome to today's episode of the Expand and Evolve podcast. I'm so excited because I have my first guest, Tara. I'm so excited for you to be here. If you guys don't know who she is, she's the founder of Smart Sweets, which I think is just so epic because I feel like everybody knows who Smart Sweets is now, but I'm like, no, but it's extra special because you went to the same gym as me and you were local. And so it's like extra cool to me, and that you're a mom. And just that you're local, and I know how you started your business because we had the same. Was she your personal trainer too?
She was like my boss.
Okay.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
used to work at Platinum.
At X Fuel, yeah.
Oh my gosh. Okay. So yeah, she used to work at XBL, which was in the gym, which is where I kind of really embarked on my whole bodybuilding journey. If you guys know anything about me, that was really transformative part of my life. But I remember when you were just starting your business, and she would always tell me, she's like, Tara, she's so awesome. She's like making this candy. And I was just like, oh, that's so great. That's so cool. And then watching it, because I knew the name of it back then,
Mhm.
blow up has been the coolest thing ever. So um, yeah, I just feel like it's amazing. Your Forbes, weren't you listed like Forbes 30 under 30,
Mhm.
right? Which is like, that is such a big deal. Do you ever think about that? You're like, wow, I really did that from my kitchen. Like, that's how it started.
Yeah, I'm sure you feel the same way about your
Yeah.
journey, but yeah, I feel like it's like when a kid, is riding a bike and you look at your mom and you're like, I'm doing it, I'm doing it. I feel
Yeah.
like that's just how it felt
Yeah. I
happening.
love it. Okay, so for people who don't know who you are, tell them just a teeny bit about who you are and maybe your journey in regards to just like what led you to starting, because I'm just assuming everybody knows, but I'm sure so many people don't know your story. And yeah, just to share a teeny bit about how you got started in regards to your business journey, because I don't think, did you have much business experience before that? Or was this your first real
No.
business? This was
Yeah,
first.
no, I knew nothing about business, didn't know anyone that had like a business or anything
Yeah.
like that. So yeah, it was the first. And yeah, also super honored to be your first guest, and congrats again on your
Thank you.
podcast. It's such an exciting journey that you're on and super inspiring. But yeah, with Smart Sweet, so I grew up not in, I think, many way parallels, I'm sure, to your journey and that of like so many women, if not
Mhm.
all women at some point in their lives, really struggled with body image and self-esteem. And so restricted the foods that I was eating. And I loved candy.
Yeah.
Um, and it brought me so much joy, and I had it all the time with my grandma, who was like my best friend in the world. So it wasn't until many years later when I started working at X Fuel
Mhm.
that from Dawn, who is the shared person that
Yeah.
Carly and I know, had kind of taught me the concept of, it's not restricting, it's finding smarter choices.
Mhm.
And so that really opened my mind up to, oh, wow, I can enjoy candy. I just need to find a way that feels good for me and my
Mhm.
body. So I had a conversation with my grandma shortly after that, and she shared she regretted having so much excess sugar over the years. And I was shocked that you can go your whole life feeling bad about yourself because of
Right.
what you're putting in your body and having that unhealthy relationship with food. So I asked myself, why can't you feel good about candy? And that was the catalyst. Began recipe testing in my kitchen. We
Yeah.
launched nationwide on store shelves just under a year after that.
Oh my gosh. It's just so cool. And okay, how old were you when that happened? Like when you had that first concept that came into your mind where you were like, okay, I want to do this. And then when for you in the business journey, because obviously you started making it for yourself. You're like, I want to make this different options for me. And then when did the concept come like, oh my gosh, everyone needs to have this in their lives. And I want this to be, because I feel like vision is so important. And for you to
Totally.
have that vision, did you start with that vision, or was it once you found a recipe that was so good you were like, everyone needs to have this? Like, how was that?
Yeah. Yeah, you're so right. Vision is everything.
Hmm.
It's like the only limiter to what you can create or can't create in the world, what you believe to be true. I like that resonates.
Hmm.
That was everything for Smart Sweets in my journey too. So when I had the idea of, why doesn't candy you can feel good about exist, I
Hmm.
went down the rabbit hole of sugar consumption and how it's kind of this silent
Yeah.
global epidemic where these manufacturers are silently using something called the bliss spot, which is, how much fat, sugar, and salt can we add to
Yeah.
make
To
something
make
as
it wildly addicting.
yeah, and
What
then
the
market it to
yes.
kids, which
Yes.
is just like messed up on so many
Yes.
levels. But so that really sparked my passion to not just innovate candy that kicks sugar, but really believe that, if we can do this successfully, candy's the most sugar packed aisle in the grocery store. It makes a much larger statement about why is
Mhm.
there so much added sugar in our packaged foods today. So the vision from day one was to be the global leader in revolutionizing candy. But to your point, to actually get myself to believe that every
Yeah.
single day, I was spending so much time just reading cheesy quotes and YouTube videos and
Mhm.
podcasts and ripping pages out of books to just like cling to the belief that I was capable and it was
Right.
possible. Yeah.
And because I feel like, okay, so how old were you when you had that vision? Just for
I
people to
was
understand.
22.
22, yeah. So I feel like I have full goosebumps because I'm just like, it really is first a thought in your mind before anything can ever become reality or be created in real life. And the fact that you started with that vision, I'm not shocked at all that it's happened because you held that even in the times where maybe you didn't know if it was going to be possible or how. I think that's the most important part is you don't need to know the how. You just need to do the thing
Totally.
and have the vision and the right people and resources always end up showing up. So, what was the
Totally.
step? Like, what brought you from, like, did you start selling locally first? Like, were you making your own little baggies and being like, hey, I have this for sale? Like, how did it start before it went into stores? Or was it immediately, I'm just going to reach stores?
Yeah. Yeah. What you're saying is it's so powerful. It's because it's all the cheesy quotes. I feel like when you come full circle as an adult, they're actually the realist. Like live,
Yeah.
laugh, love. It's like, yep,
Yeah.
that's like literally that's literally all it is.
Yeah.
And there's so many of those quotes about just that. How your mind is your limit, and
Mhm.
your what you believe is what happens. And to your point, it's so true. It's like once you solidify that in your mind, it's like the universe conspires and you begin taking the steps every day because in your subconscious you believe it's actually
Yes.
possible. It doesn't mean it's not like absolutely terrifying and can be feel paralyzing still and get caught in the fear, but exactly what you were saying of like just taking one step forward every single day, you're going to get there. And
Right.
no one has it figured out, which I feel like is a comforting feeling when you begin to have conversations with those journeys of people that you've admired. And you're like, oh, wow, like they still don't know what they're doing.
Yeah.
Everyone is just figuring it out as we
Yeah.
go.
And
Yeah.
yeah, I feel like the biggest difference too for people is so many people have these thoughts and ideas come through, but they don't take the actions. Where
Hmm.
you started taking the actions and then you held the belief. And like you said, so many people don't know. Like even for me, I'm like, I just have a new vision of what I want. And I have no idea how it's going to work out, but I trust that as long as I can solidify that vision and belief within me, everything else is going to work. So it really is holding true every single day through the ups and downs, through rejection, through whatever, that you have to truly believe it within you. And that's the most important thing. It doesn't matter about other people because there's so many people and someone is going to catch the vision, which is obviously what happened for you. So who were the key players? I guess, like, did you come up against any struggles in that first year, let's say, versus like what was the catalyst to help you get in front of people? Because for people who don't know your story,
Yeah, I
what took you
think.
from your kitchen to in stores, you know?
Yeah, well, I made the decision to drop out of college right away. And so was able to put like all my time and energy towards it, kind of through the lens of, like I was just like, the only risk is, being 90 years old and
Mhm.
living with the what if I had tried. That was the worst case scenario. And so that put into context the
Right.
fear of, people being like, you're dropping out of college to make gummy bears in your kitchen, or just thinking you're yeah, and I think the struggles in that first year where the tricky part, I think, is when you have a vision in those really early stages, it exists and it's real in your head, but to
Mhm.
the external world, it hasn't happened yet. And so I think having that conviction in your head, it's kind of like a muscle that you have to like work every day at feeding
Mhm.
the content and inspiration to yourself that it's possible, so you actually continue to believe it's possible when people in the world, which is what happened in the early days for sure with Smart Sweets, thought it was, kind of a, oh, that's sweet, like that, like
Mhm.
really kind of underplayed what it could be in the world, and then just underestimating you as a person,
Yeah.
going out and trying to get manufacturers and that sort of thing, where you're talking primarily to old white men, and being underestimated, or being, there was
Right.
one instance where I was with a raw material supplier at their boardroom, and it was a really important ingredient for this product to work, and he started telling me that, we need equity in the company. If you don't give us equity, we're not going to give you this raw material, and started getting really aggressive. And it was
Mhm.
just me and him in this room, and so I sat there and started crying. And but those are the moments then when you take a step back from
Yeah.
after, where you can reframe a moment that could be really defeating and be like, this is fuel, because this person is filtered out, they weren't meant to be part of my journey.
Mhm.
And then they can just watch and see. And in that instance, like 3 years later, I ended up being a judge for this competition, and his company was pitching, and so it was kind of a full circle moment
Oh my
there.
gosh, I love that. That's amazing. Um, okay, and then in terms of, because I feel like for you, that's a lot about your journey. And like, for how old are you now?
29.
Okay, so
Yeah.
22 to now, what's math? Like 6, 7 years?
Yeah.
Okay. And I guess for you, because I've seen it everywhere and I feel like it's blown up so much in the last, like, when do you feel like from the moment you started to the moment that it was, like, how long from the moment you started till you were actually making it in stores?
hmm Yeah, it was just under a year, so it was about
Okay.
11 months. Yeah.
Which is amazing. And then now, because I know 160,000 stores, or what is it? Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
which is so crazy. But what was, I guess, like, how did that happen? Like, take me through, just like, was it one store and then they got word of another store, or were you guys the ones going out there pitching to these stores, or did someone get wind of it and then it started getting distributed everywhere? Like, how did that happen?
Mhm. Yeah, I think one of the big blessings that I had in building Smart Suites was I was accepted into an accelerator program where I was surrounded by tech companies
Okay.
and companies in the beauty space. And so I saw really early on that these companies, especially in the beauty space, at the time brands like Glossier were scaling. They weren't building brands around products. They were building communities around
Right.
brands. And no one had done that in food. And so I really focused on building a community around kicking sugar. And it's such an emotional connection
Yeah.
that people have to their journey and their relationship with food, and candy, because it's so nostalgic and it's fun. And oftentimes as adults, we just don't feel good about eating it anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And so that experience really taught me a really powerful filter, which was, how can we consider what has been done in the past and how people built food companies, and how maybe do things differently to scale the pace that we can grow. So I made the decision to um, find a retail partner that we could launch nationwide with from day one, which was like very not untraditional at the time. It was like you get
Mm-hmm.
retailers in your backyard, you'd grow in Western
Yeah.
Canada, then Eastern, then you grow
Right.
nationally. But I thought, now that social media exists, it's the new world, word of mouth. 10
Yeah.
years ago, you could reach maybe 1,000 people in a day. Now you could reach hundreds of thousands in a day.
Mhm.
That it would actually be more frustrating to people if they couldn't access the product after they
Yeah.
see it on social media. So I just that when we launched initially, we launched in about 30 retailers that were local, but my goal was to get a national partner who wouldn't just put us on the shelves, who would lean in and get the vision, going back to which
Mhm.
everything goes back to your
Yes.
point in the beginning, the vision. So ended up banging down the door with Popeye supplements and Bed Bath Beyond. And both those partners seemed random, but what those partners did was they got the vision and they leaned in hard. So they both launched us within 3 months of launching on shelves. And that took us overnight into around 500 stores right away.
Mhm.
And then it just kind of snowballs from there. You can take that study, take it to another retailer, take it to another. Yeah.
I love it. That's so special. And okay, so you have a daughter too. I feel like we should chat motherhood because so many people I'm in the network marketing space. So I talk to people all the time who are trying to get a business going, and I feel like no matter what business you are building, your vision and belief is number one before anything else can work. If you don't have that foundation, for me, I believe at this point, I'm like, doesn't matter what actions you're taking. If you don't have that vision and belief, you're going to be going in circles and you're not going to see results because you need to have that vision. But so many people that I talk to are also moms, and so often they allow that to be like, oh, I'm just too busy to do anything, or I can't
Mm.
build a business. And obviously for you, you started before you had a baby, but you had a baby and you still had this massive business. What kind of transitions did you find? Or like, yeah, let's start with that. Just how did you feel about having a business and what shifted by also becoming a mother? Let's start there. And then I have another question for you after.
Yeah, I mean, it's like as you know, and it sounds
Mhm.
like so many of the people that you chat with so often know, it's when you become a mom. For me, the big shift was I felt like in business, you're building and running hard. You are doing that when you have a baby, especially in those stages where you're changing the diapers and all these things, but it's different. It's like kind of the repetitive things. You're not sitting there thinking about like strategy. You're sitting there thinking about when's the baby need to eat next
Mhm.
and all the things that I started saying like my brain would sometimes just feel like a potato brain
Yeah.
because it had the stimulation
Yes.
of that being engaged in all the things and anticipating another
Mhm.
little human's needs all the time and putting yourself on the back burner. But I think within that, there's a superpower. And I think you realize just
Mhm.
like the strength of women and just like
Yeah.
how amazing of like humans and creatures we are and how
Mhm.
powerful we are. So I think that was the shift for me,
Mhm.
where I just realized like, wow, I like we literally grow humans and have humans. Like that is still my brain. I don't know if you feel the
Yeah.
same, but still when I think about it, it just can't compute fully. I'm like, that is wild. Like
Yeah.
we do that. Um,
Well, for me, I'm
yeah,
like, we're the true essence of creation and like being able
yeah.
to literally grow it and birth it. And so much of even business is the same. Like you first, like it creates, it conceptualizes, it creates, and then you birth the thing into the world. And no, it's not the same. You're not birthing a human, but it is all creation. And I think so many women I don't know if we realize that if we're trying to operate all the time. I love just looking at masculine and feminine energies now, but I'm like, so much of what we do, like you said, so much of when you were out there building this business was dominated by males. And we have this gift within us to just be able to create. And I think if we were able to realize, and you're the perfect example of this, that you can have an idea in your head, create it, and then go create it into the world, that is what we're supposed to do as women. And it's a superpower that if you are a mother, you need to realize like you've already done this. Now just run with the ideas that are in your head and go birth it to the world and share it with everybody. But
Mhm.
yeah, anyways, I feel like
Totally.
it is a superpower and it's so
It
incredible.
is.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's so true. I like truly believe that like, exactly what you said. Once you become a mom, and like that is as hard as building a company is and building a vision moving forward every single day, it pales in comparison to being a
Mhm.
mom and like exactly what you said. Like you are so infinitely capable. You've done that and you are infinitely capable of anything. Yeah, I think I like to be like super transparent on like my journey.
Mhm.
I sold majority of my business 1 week before I got pregnant didn't know it at the
Wow.
time, found out I was pregnant when I was 6 months pregnant. Um, and then I was having a baby in 3 months. But for me,
Mhm.
in making that, in kind of how the natural occurrence of events happened, I had the blessing of being able to take a step back, which not
Right.
everyone has, especially when you're in those really early stages and you're starting and you're working on an idea.
Right.
Um, and so, I like never want to or try to pretend that I was a mom in like the early infancy
Right.
stages of my business as well, because I think that can feel different in many ways. But now, in having a toddler and being in the infancy stages of different projects and
Yeah.
supporting other women on their journeys, and as an investor and all these different things, um, that superpower that like we talked about now, I think
Mhm.
what's really cool is I think what when I was building a business before having my kid I could do in an hour, now I could do that in 10 minutes, because you just function at a
Yeah.
way higher level than you even realize, because
Mhm.
you need to.
Yeah.
And
Because when
I
you
think,
have 10 minutes, you're like, I need to
yeah,
get a whole day's worth of like things done in these minutes where I can.
yeah,
So I agree because I'm like the days where I have all the time in the world now because I'm a mom, I can get so much done. But pre babies, when I was building my business, you're like, I have all day. So you can take all day to do things that you really could execute really fast and quickly. And yeah, you just learn how to navigate and get things done. And yes, your life changes. Once you have babies, you know this too. Even though I'm
mhm,
like, that's so beautiful that you had sold a bunch of it so that you actually could be there and take that break because it is a lot. Like owning your own business and having to do all the things and then having your babies, it is a lot. And I think giving yourself grace in the early stages as you become a mother is so important. Um, but then knowing like once you get your kind of routine down, like you said, when it's not so overwhelming and you know when the typical diaper changes, when they get hungry, when they nap, you know how to fit things in. At least for me, that's what it was for me.
totally,
Right? You're like, okay, this is nap time, boom. And then you're just like, like getting all the things done. And then you know when they're awake. And you have to give yourself grace that like you're not going to get the same amount of stuff done that you would have before babies, right? Um, but yeah, I love that
totally.
for you. Is there anything else you want to add on that in terms of just motherhood and being a business owner?
No, that's so powerful. I mean, I think it, like what you said about the napping part, I think one really helpful thing that comes out of it is like it is really helpful because it forces you to get clear on your priorities.
Yeah,
And so, because you have those limited windows of times,
right.
when you have them, you're like, okay, what's like the number one thing I have to get done now? And you're like, you go like ham getting that done because you don't know when they're going to wake up, or you hear them
Yes.
ruffling.
Yeah.
Um, and it also, the last thing that just comes to mind, I think, is like hand in hand with the vision, I think, is having a really powerful why that's a
Mhm.
visceral pull. And I think when you become a mom,
Yeah.
you have no stronger, I don't think there is a stronger why
Mhm.
that exists in the world that like enters our hearts when we have little
Mhm.
humans. And that is so powerful too.
Right.
So it might just be one step forward each day, but that's enough.
Right.
That will get you to where you're gonna go.
Right. I agree. I feel like there is nothing more powerful than when you do have babies because I know for me too, it gave me such a different vision. And so for you, because obviously, have you sold Smart Suites completely? Like, are you out of the picture now?
I'm still the largest shareholder,
Right. Okay.
but I'm not in the day-to-day firefighting. So
Okay.
I'm not the one anymore when shit hits the fan, which is
Yeah.
every day,
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm not the one in it with the team
Okay.
fighting those fires. And now I'm more at the like 30,000 foot
Right.
view on the board.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Love it. Because I know you started Bold Beginnings, right? Is
Hmm.
that your newest thing? And I feel like just maybe on the motherhood part, was there anything that shifted? Like, did your vision change from before baby to after baby? And what led you to want to start Bold Beginnings? And then you can kind of give people a little bit about what that is.
Hmm. Yeah, I think for me what really shifted after having a baby was just really through Smart Sweet's journey, I became like more and more passionate about the sides of business that aren't talked about a lot and that impact every woman on their journey, like
Mhm.
feeling insecure, self-doubt, imposter syndrome, questioning if you belong, all of those things. And but when I had Willa, my baby, it shifted in such a more powerful way where I was like,
Mhm.
I feel it's a responsibility I have now to try and use my journey to make sure the next generation of women entrepreneurs know that they are limitless and what they can create and how infinitely capable they are, and to normalize those feelings that everyone feels. And so I think it just strengthened my why that had kind of been like drum beating up
Mhm.
to that moment.
Well, and having a daughter is even more of a pull because you're going to be watching her grow up and you know what it's like growing up as a girl. Uh,
Hmm.
and it's just so powerful. And to know so many women don't have it. Like they don't, all the self doubt and the limiting beliefs and the imposter syndrome takes them out. Like they can have these amazing ideas, but that stuff is so strong and so overpowering that it doesn't allow them to actually go out and create and do the thing. And so I love what you guys are doing. I think it's amazing and just giving people opportunity for that. Why don't you just tell them a teeny bit about that? And then I want to jump into a little bit more personal,
Hmm.
like, because we've both
Yeah.
been through some
Oh
stuff.
man. Yeah. Life is like that quote where it's like just
Yeah.
when you think like you know what's gonna happen, life says plot twist
Yeah. Yeah.
every single time. Every single time.
Yeah.
Um But yeah, I think on that front, I mean, exactly what you're saying. I think we don't always realize just the compound effect of all those feelings. And like you said, how it actually makes all the difference. And if you get to where your vision is or not, um, there was a story that captured it really well on my journey super early on. I was in an accelerator program, and there was one other female founder. We became really good friends. At the kickoff for this event, at the end of
Mhm.
it, there were a platter of sandwiches left on the table, and we were broke, living off of like $2 JJ Bean muffins for
Yeah.
lunch and dinner at the time. And we were like standing there and said, wow, it'd be so nice if we just could take a few sandwiches home. Like, will people think we're rude? Or like, is that
Mhm.
is and so we paused and were hesitating. And as we hesitated, one of the guys went and took the whole platter. And so her and I looked at each other and we were like, okay, we promised each other we're going to always take the whole damn platter. And that has such a powerful, powerful effect
Mhm.
when you're acting on your idea and you're bringing your vision to life. Those moments of hesitations are moments where you're not seizing the opportunities that that same opportunity may or may not come your way again.
Right.
Um, and so yeah, bold beginnings really exist to empower women in the world to know that they're limitless. And so it's a 25K initiative, and so it's really tailored to each woman's company that becomes part of the cohort. We just are announcing our first cohort shortly, but
So
that's
fun.
really the goal, is to normalize those conversations and those feelings and make sure that women know that they're believed in and
Mhm.
that they got this.
Right. Well, even the platter, like taking up space. Like both of you were worried about if we do that, what are people going to think? Because it can seem, it's like a bold act if you were to go take the whole platter. Right. And I feel like that's just such a good, I don't know if the word's analogy, but for women to be able to take up space and be bold and
Totally.
be big and like how a guy would just go grab the whole platter. Like if he's like, I'm hungry, I have no
100%.
food, I'm broke. He's like, I'm taking the platter. Where we're like, oh,
100%.
we need to like give it to everyone. It's like, no, if you're starving, take the freaking platter.
Totally. Totally. And
I
it
love it. And I
translates.
also, okay, wait. So I also think it's cool that you just mentioned this, but that you guys were broke and starving because so many people on their business journey, I think that can even create limiting beliefs where you're like, but who am
Mhm.
I? Because you're like, but I don't have that success. And if you've never had success or you've never seen money, it can almost be scary to have a big vision because of what can come with that, because it's such
Yeah.
a life change to be in a different position financially when you do have that big vision. So for you, do you feel like money mindset was ever like, know at 22, like, I'm going to be successful and I'm going to make this big?
Mhm.
Did you have that drive in you? Because I know for me, there were parts of me that it wasn't totally for other people, like, I'm going to show them. But I do think when you get naysayers and people who don't believe in you, it kind of can fuel your fire of the don't believe me, just watch, where you're like, I'm going to freaking do
Totally.
this and prove to people that I can do it. But for you, did you feel, yeah, was there anything regarding money mindset that helped you? Or did you ever struggle with that where your vision almost wavered because you saw the success coming and you were like, oh my gosh, this is so much bigger than what I thought?
Mhm.
Did it ever make you want to shrink back, or were you constantly doing the work to make sure that you could grow with what was happening with your company? Does that make sense?
Yeah, that's such a powerful point you raised. There's a quote that I read while I was recipe testing in my
I just love you
kitchen.
and your quotes. You're like, these quotes are what kept me going.
I feel there's really no silver bullet. It is the most simple things
Yeah.
that are just that. And the quotes were that for me. But
Yeah.
there was this quote, and it was, "Our greatest fear is not that we're inadequate; it's that we're powerful beyond measure."
Mhm.
And like exactly to what you're saying, and when it comes to money and abundance
Mhm.
and the ability to be like, no, I'm deserving of that, and to like all the things in our subconscious that we may not even know that exist that could create
Mhm.
self-sabotaging behaviors to keep
Yeah.
us from actually executing on that. I think, yeah, for me, I money was something that growing up I always saw. I grew up with a single mom. I saw her
Mhm.
struggle, and money was always something of that scarcity mindset of
Mhm.
like we don't have enough money, and it was always that sort of thing. I think for me, what really allowed me to kind of move past, I think, some of the beliefs I had on the money was having this strong why about the mission,
Mhm.
and what I was creating in the world.
Right.
To me, it felt like I had a responsibility to give it my all to bring this idea to life. And then as it was happening and the company was growing and it was growing and it was growing, what was really powerful was surrounding myself with people who had already been down that journey and they knew it was possible. So for me, I may have been sitting there being like, is this possible? Like, and getting stuck in the fears of shit in my subconscious I didn't even know existed or exactly what it was. But just having those people around me that knew it was possible and seeing their belief in me, it gave me
Right.
belief in myself in those moments. And I think that's so important is
Right.
having those people who have been down that journey who can like
Well,
look at you and be like, no, this is
yeah.
possible.
Well, and it's still the cheesy quotes are just true. Like, who
They
are
are.
what is that one? You're the some of the people you've surrounded
Yeah.
me with or whatever.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
also that one where it's like no one doing more than you is ever going to judge you for whatever.
Totally.
You probably know the quotes
Totally.
better than me. I'm like, I'm not good.
Totally.
I
No,
don't know.
you're listing out all the all the good cheesy
But
ones.
it's so freaking true. And anyone who has grown a successful business knows that when you surround yourself with the people who are succeeding and winning, if you tell them a new business idea, they're like, "Oh my gosh, it's amazing. Yeah, like do it." Where I know for me when I was first starting my business, the people in my life that I kind of was like bouncing ideas off, it
Mm.
was all, "Oh, but are you sure?" Like, "Oh, but this could happen. Oh, but what about this?" Or people that own businesses, like I had an accountant tell me I was dumb for having my own business because about taxes and stuff. And I was like, wait, what? I was like, I'm totally at the wrong tax people because
Yeah,
having your own business can be incredible for write-offs and so many different things. But it
totally.
really is if they're really stuck in their employee fixed mindset of I go to work and I make this much money per hour and this is what my time is worth and this is how I see life, it can be really difficult to talk with those
Mhm.
people about a business idea and business growth because they've never walked it. They don't know. And so I think when you are conceptualizing these new ideas, just be mindful who you're sharing them with. And if you do face that rejection or that pushback from the people in your life, it's another one of the cheesy quotes like, is are they living the life that you want to have? And if not, don't
Totally.
take their advice too seriously and just trust that if you keep showing up, then you're going to eventually be brought into these circles like you were, where you're surrounded with the people who get it and are living out that same thing and who can kind of also paint your vision even more, because you're like, okay, it is possible. And you're just like chugging along on the train, like, okay, it's possible. Because otherwise, if you don't have your blinders on and you're looking at all these other people that don't believe in you, it can take you out. Where for you, I'm sure you would have had moments like that, or like, who am I to be showing up here? Or like, look at these people, they're so successful, or look at what business they have. And you can start comparing yourself, where it's like, you deserve to be there too. And
Totally.
now you probably feel that so much more. But as a newbie, like you were a baby, like 22, 23, and this is happening, and all your friends are probably still in college, finishing their degrees, doing the safe thing. And you're betting on yourself. Sorry, you're betting on yourself to be like, okay, I'm willing to drop out because I believe in this thing so much, even when everyone else is like, probably laughing at you. I don't know if social media, they could have mocked you then, but like, you're making gummy bears in your kitchen, like you said. And people probably could have
Totally.
thought it was a big joke. And now they're like, holy shit, you're amazing. Cardi B's posting with your smart sweets. Right?
Yeah, no, it's so true. I think yeah, and I think it goes back, like everything is theme. I feel like that's come up here, but it goes back to the conviction in your vision, because
Yeah.
it has to be such a strong visceral
Mm-hmm.
pull and why behind that, that it really helps you to discard the thoughts and opinions of others. And it's tricky too when you start building, and or you have your idea and you've acted on it, and then you someone says yes to talking to you who you really admire, and the advice that they share is advice that maybe doesn't align with your gut on how you think you should take those steps.
Right.
I think that can be really tricky too, where you're
Mhm.
like, oh, shoot, I really admire this person. They're telling me this is how it needs to be done. But in my gut, I feel like it needs to happen this way. And really, even if it's someone you admire, just staying true to your gut. I always liked to put on the filter that, everyone you cross paths with has golden nuggets of knowledge, that might apply to your journey, might not, and just to take the ones that you feel like apply and discard the
Mhm.
rest, no matter who they are. But yeah, it's a tricky one to navigate, and having those people to fall back on that will lift you up
Right.
are is so important.
And I just want to edify, because I've been saying this so much lately. I feel like I'm getting it differently at this point in my journey, where it just, there's no other way. But like, when you're saying you have a responsibility, it's because it's coming from the heart. So
Hmm.
if your vision is just, I want things, like I want the mansion and I want this and I want stuff, and it's, you may want that, and you may be trying to call it in because you think it means success. But if it's not like a heart pulling vision and desire, it's probably not going to happen. Where when you're pulled
Totally.
from your heart and it's out of service, I feel like the abundance that can come into your life is infinite, because you're doing it out of service for others. And when you're, especially again as a female, like when you're coming from your heart, people feel it. They feel that it's authentic. They feel the belief from you. They feel how much it means. And I just feel like the it's just, I always say too, I'm like, abundance is your birthright. So when you find that thing, and for you it was helping people with sugar, because I even think my kids too, I'm like, it's such a great memory, like going to get candy. And it is a great memory, that why do you have to get rid of it when we could just do this differently without all the junk that so much of our food, and it's not just candy, it's so much of our food is
Everything.
loaded with, literally, oh my gosh, this, that could be a whole podcast in itself, of like the processed junk that's in our food.
Yeah.
um and you did it out of service of others, and that's why I feel that you've been blessed with abundance and you're reaching people, because it didn't start as, I'm going to be the most successful, you know what I mean, the difference of,
Totally.
I want to do this to show people I can be successful and build a company for money. It came from
Totally.
a heart-centered desire, and that
Totally.
is the difference.
Yeah, you articulated that so well. Yeah, it has to be of service to something larger than yourself. And I think, to your point, only when it's in service of something larger than yourself that's
Mhm.
creating a positive impact in the world and people's lives does the universe conspire
Mhm.
to support you in that, in those little whispers and moments where you're
Right.
like, wow, that is too serendipitous to be a
Right.
coincidence.
Just
Yeah,
divinely
yeah,
placed,
yeah, it's so
right?
important.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's not to say that, like, I think on the underneath that, it's really
Yeah.
important to be crystal clear about what you want and what, I think it's another taboo thing too, where if women talk about what their financial goals are and that sort of thing, that
Mhm.
some people may be quick to say, oh, well, you just care about money. And
No.
it's like, no, I'm being very clear, coming down from the vision and reverse executing
Yeah.
on that, on what do I want my life to look like? What do I want my team's life to look like?
Right.
All those things. But 100%, it has to be heart centered and so much bigger than yourself.
Okay, I want to touch on because two things. How you said your gut, because I think intuitively we know.
Mhm.
And like you said, if people are giving you advice where, yes, you could admire them, but if it feels not right to you, then it's like you've got to do the thing that feels right to you and trust that it's guiding you your way perfectly. And then on the other side, the vision for your team. Because as you grew a team, and so many people, eventually, when your business gets big enough, there's always going to be a team of people. And something I always say is, your vision needs to be so big that every single one of their visions can be underneath that. And so, for example, let's say you have employees that are like, I need to be making at least 100 grand a year. Okay, so how big does your vision need to be in order to help them live the life they also want to live? So I don't know if you want to touch on that at all either, but I'm like, money is how we live. Like in this experience, this world we're living in, money makes the world go round. We do need it. And it's not weird to want it. And if you have money to want nice things, like none of that is bad.
Totally.
None of it is weird. But, and for me too, I set financial goals. I set number income goals, sales goals. All of it is about the numbers for the crystal clear vision, but then
Mhm.
it has to be a heart centered why for why you want to hit those things. And
Totally.
both of those have to go together. So it's like seeing the big numbers, and I don't know if you have an example you can give them, but like seeing the big number, but it's coming, you want to hit that big number for heart centered service reasons. And if you can tie the two together, that's what's going to get you there. If you just want to hit the number for like shits and giggles because you're like, oh, this would be cool to hit that, it's just like the pull is not there and the things don't happen to get you there. So any examples or anything you want to share on that?
Yeah, no, I agree. It's like it's like, I'm sure there's so many quotes about that, but it's true, where it's like when you have your purpose and your why, then the money follows that. It does not happen in the reverse. And yeah, I think a rising tide like lifts all boats. And I think
Mm-hmm.
when you're setting out your vision, and your intentionality about what that vision looks like, and then reverse executing from that, I think it's really important to be clear. And it's so powerful and amazing to be thinking of this from day one as you're starting your
Mm-hmm.
business. And so it's like, if that's where someone is that's still has an idea in their head but they haven't acted on it yet, that's listening, it's like that's such a gift to be in that place when you're thinking of all these things, because it's the easiest time to set that up for yourself with
Mm-hmm.
clarity. So as you're executing, so for me, what that looked like, was, I was wanted to be really intentional about making sure that every single person on the team had equity in the company, and not just equity, but meaningful equity,
Right.
because what happens a lot in companies, especially once companies get funding, is team will have equity, but different classes of shares are created, and the cap table becomes very complicated. It's like reading a different language. And then when acquisition or IPO happens, team ends up getting almost nothing. So to me, it was really important to be intentional about creating the structure that it would be meaningful and that
Yeah.
everyone could say they're an owner. And so when the acquisition did happen, every single person, including like the most entry level customer service rep, could go buy their dream car or put a down payment on a townhome or a duplex if they're in Vancouver.
Yeah.
Farther out, they could get a house.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, and I think to your point, I think people really sense when you're
Mhm.
authentic in wanting everyone to rise together and not just being self-serving, and how you're going to grow and the
Mhm.
financial outcome you're going to see from that.
Right.
And when you set that from day one, it becomes so much easier for you to attract the right people, because it's the another cheesy quote, I'm sure, about the energy you attract is what you reflect and all that.
Yeah, but it's true because I think I just have people in my life where they're constantly attracting shit. And I'm like, it's because you're being shit. Like somewhere in your life, you're being shitty. And so you're attracting this stuff into your life where when you're, yeah, it's just like, the same quotes, like, who are you when you're alone? Those things
Totally.
matter. Not just who you're trying to show up as to other people, but who are you when you're by yourself? Like, where's your heart? Where's your desires? Like, what are your intentions? Because those things, though, it doesn't need to be spoken words that are said. It's an energy that people can feel. Um,
Totally.
and there's
Yeah.
no faking that.
No, it's the like hardest question I feel like I found to always ask myself was, how am I holding the business up?
Hmm.
Um, and I think that's such a powerful question, because we're human, and so although we have good intentions, and even if we have a heart-centered vision, how we might be showing up sometimes is in a way that's not helpful, or is limiting your business's growth, or
Right.
making the team and people around you not feel as empowered.
Totally.
And that was a really powerful question to always ask myself, and just to keep yourself in check as well, and so you are growing alongside your business,
Totally.
because those happen in parallel.
Well, and when you're leading a team of people, like I love that you cared from the beginning that they felt valued and important because you're
Mm,
never going to be able to grow huge if those people that are key players in your business don't feel valued and important, which is just such a
totally.
good reminder.
Yeah, I think as humans, it's a natural and like super valid question that people always end up asking themselves, what's in it for me? And the
Right.
what's in it for me has to be powerful for every single person on that team.
Right. I love that. Okay, we're getting close to the end. So I just wanted to ask in regards to, and maybe more personal because I think we've both been through it, where I don't even love using the term single mom. I don't know about you, but I'm like,
Mm,
I just feel like that came with when I was growing up so much like, oh, where I'm like, it doesn't have to be a like, oh, poor them. It doesn't have to be that at all. It's like, so I've been saying solo mom. I'm like, I'm solo momming. I don't know. I'm trying to figure out how I want to describe that. But for you, in terms of just anything you want to share, and it doesn't even have to be business, but just your biggest takeaway or thing that you've learned through going through that season of
mm,
life of going through a separation as a business owner, as a mom, and just like what you found from it. Because I know for me, there's been so much beauty and I've learned so much
mm,
that I would never even change it. And it was such a hard decision to make. And it was so challenging to decide to move forward with it because of worrying about the kids, worrying about life, worrying about business, all the things. And it's been amazing for me to find me, which I think is the most invaluable thing on the planet because I feel like you become unstoppable when you really are tapped into you. Again, it comes back to that authenticity. When you're in your heart and staying authentic and true to you, it's like the world is your oyster. Anything can happen. We're doing
mm.
all the cheesy quotes, but anything that you, whether it's insight or anything about your journey that you've learned for you, that you feel comfortable sharing.
Yeah, I agree with all of that. I mean, I think it's so ironic, because I think sometimes I think it's so funny, like if someone on the outside is like, "Oh wow, like like you really look like you have your life together." I'm sure
Yeah.
like people have said that to you, and
And
then
then
it's
they
so
assume
funny.
something's wrong. They're like, oh,
Yeah,
but then a relationship ended. Oh, I guess she doesn't have it together. I'm like, why? What?
yeah.
What?
I know, it's so funny. It's so funny. It and I think it, but I think going back to, I think what we talked
Mhm.
about what's the guiding light in scaling a company or an idea or a vision successfully, which is listening to the whisper in your heart, and what you already know to be true that is
Mhm.
sometimes hard to believe. I think for me that was my biggest learning lesson, where I think I knew in my heart that I had that whisper in my heart.
Mhm.
I different from your situation, I wasn't married when I found out I was pregnant. I was
I
single when I
wasn't
found
married
out.
either. Oh,
Oh,
I
you
wasn't
weren't.
no,
Oh, okay,
I
okay,
got
okay.
married after my first
Oh, okay,
well,
okay,
a day
okay.
before he was born, but yeah. So I'm
Oh,
like, I got
wow.
pregnant with a yeah, it was not expected, and it was
Yeah,
an oh shit moment, but
yeah,
yeah. Anyways, keep going.
yeah. No, yeah, I mean, I think in those moments, I don't know if this is kind of how you felt or it like informed the decisions that you made, but for me, when I found out I was pregnant, instead of listening to like pausing and listening to the whispers of my heart, I did what I felt like I should do and what I needed to do
Mm,
in order to like fit into that box, which was be with the dad, make things work, and that's it. I didn't even consider the possibility of pausing and being like, what actually is my like heart and gut
mm,
telling me, and what am I actually feeling pulled towards? And then I think with how everything played out for me, um, I full circle when I ended that relationship. I in my head I was like, wow, I already knew this way
yeah,
back then. I knew this when I made the decision to try and jump 2 feet in and make this family that I felt like
right.
is what I needed to do. Otherwise, I was wrong or imperfect or broken in some way if I wasn't able to make that work. So I
Mhm,
think the largest lesson was listening to my heart's whispers and just realizing, I think, also how much the societal expectations do influence us and do sometimes keep us in a place where we're not living authentically. And it's hard to it's as hard as it is to lean into that. I
mhm,
think from what you shared, I felt similar where I felt very empowered and just being like, wow, I made the decision that was right for me. And it's like
right.
your soul opens up. I feel like I was just like so filled with just, wow,
Yeah.
that was the right decision. And this is
Mhm.
so hard and all of these things.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Well, and all the emotions that come with it. But for you too, it's again, it's that whisper in your heart. It's like creating enough silence, stillness, and slowing down to be able to hear
Mhm.
it. Because it's not going to be this loud someone talking to you. It's like an inner knowing that isn't necessarily even words. You just can feel it and know it. And for you too, it was probably like me. It was a not I was not expected. And then you almost go into survival mode of
Mhm.
just like, okay, this is what's happening. So this is what needs to happen and do. And you logically just plan out all the things that need to happen to have this work or like what makes
Totally.
sense. And it's all the shoulds. And okay, well, this is what families look like. Like parents are together, mom and dad, and they need to be together. So you try to make it work. And for me, it wasn't when I got pregnant that I had that feeling, but it was later where I
Mhm.
got the whisper and I
Mhm.
hoped for a different answer for years. I was like,
Mm.
hopefully this just changes. Like hopefully that wasn't really what that was. Like I was just hoping it would be different than it was. And I think the most freeing part, and you may have found this too, it's not like I think sometimes people are like I want to be single to be free. No, it's you feel freedom because you
Mm.
honored yourself and your heart. And for me,
Totally.
I don't know. I feel like there's so many times in my life where I didn't do that. And so this was huge for me to listen, actually listen and follow what it was telling me. And that was like a healing bonding relationship with myself to
Totally.
to finally lean into that and not just do what other people were, I don't know, expecting of me. And like people I thought I would
Totally.
let down. Like I still have people message me sometimes like, "But you guys were like so great. I loved watching you. You were so perfect." And I'm like,
Mm.
"Really? Like from photos, you guys just assume
Mm.
that we should be together?" Like that's so
Right.
crazy.
Yeah, that is wild that people say that. It is,
Yeah.
and yeah, I think when you dive into like the logistics and then like trying to like overcompensate
Mhm.
to like convince yourself that that whisper doesn't exist, I
Yeah.
think for me at least, I found like it took away the light and the life in my soul where like I
Mhm.
became a shell of who I was because it takes so much energy to try and keep up with the battling of what you know in your heart to be true, and what you're how you're showing up in the world and trying to ignore that it takes so much from you. And so when you have that back to really lean in,
Oh, yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Well, and it all comes back to the same theme. Like I did not feel I was living in alignment or authentic. Like I
Mm,
wasn't, and I couldn't show up authentically because it was this consuming thought in my head every single day of what do I do? Should I do this? Should I do that? And it took all my energy. So to try to create, especially as a business owner, like to think future forward or have vision or create, all of it was gone.
Totally.
And as soon as I made the decision and it became final, I'm like, I feel like myself again because this was just normal for me to be able to do and create and flow with ideas. And all of them literally didn't exist while I was going through that
Mhm.
until I finally honored it. And then we'll end it here. But I don't know if you found this, if your business dipped at all, but mine, it wasn't so much it dipped because of what I was going through. It was, I was choosing fear, scarcity, and lack in my personal
Totally.
life. And so that impacted my business. And of course. And then as soon as I stepped out of the fear, scarcity, and lack and chose, okay, I'm going to choose courage and I'm going to jump towards like love. And this is what is love for me, is honoring me. Everything started to flourish again. And I don't know
Mhm.
if you noticed any dips or anything like that, but then I know you've got to go. We're almost at an hour. So just anything you want to say on that, and then we can end it. And just again, thank you so much for being here because this has been so good to even just chat with you.
Yeah, no, ditto. It's been such a fun conversation. I could
Yeah,
talk to you for hours
I know.
about the
I'm like,
about
we need to go for a walk or
all we
something. I'll come to
I
Vancouver.
know. I know. We should. The Yeah, I think to what you're saying, I think the dip, I think the dip for me, definitely on like the business side, but I think more so on like like you said, the
Mhm,
ability to step into creation and that sort of thing.
mhm,
Because what I didn't realize I was doing was shrinking myself down to not make someone else feel uncomfortable, and stepping into my power was making someone else feel uncomfortable
right.
because it brought out their own internal insecurities and things that they needed to work through. And so I think that was the biggest thing for me that I didn't realize till I was out, where I was like, wow, like I remembered when I was in
Mhm,
that situation, when people would reach out for wanting me to speak and that sort of thing. I would say no because the thought in my head was, what do I have to offer? Like, what do I have
mhm,
to even share? And then, and then now when I look back, I'm like, what do you mean? Like you didn't have anything to share? Like you, but it's just crazy the space
mhm.
it can take you to when you're in that space and the person closest to you, um, you're feeding off of a different energy. So yeah, all the things that you
Oh,
said,
yeah.
um,
So,
yeah,
because were you guys living together too?
yeah.
And then you're sleeping beside each other. And we're all energetic beings where we're being impacted by the people around us. And if when you're living in that space, and again, if they don't have the vision and the belief and the dreams and the goals and the aspirations like you do, it can be so difficult because your
Totally,
vibrations just are not a match.
totally,
And you're
and
trying to
yeah,
make it work. And so what do? To be more a match, one either needs to raise up or one has to shrink down. And
totally.
so you lived it where you were shrinking yourself down.
Totally. And I
Mhm.
do believe there's a way to honor the relationship or
Yeah.
honor any relationship where it's where you can like move into your authentic self and honor them.
Yes.
Um I think once you've done that, the the reactions or emotions you receive from that
Mhm.
person, I think for me it became also a practice um of just realizing that um, you leaning into yourself and that sort of thing, that it's just like once you've done that, you can't take the projections of
Mhm.
others personally,
Totally.
which can be hard too when there's
Yes.
people close in your life that you love, or you have someone random reaching out to you being like, you were so great, and that sort of thing, which is so funny that
Yeah.
strangers have said that to
I
you, like
know.
what.
So, yeah. But it's just, yeah, I feel like we could talk about everything, but there's just so much that's similar. And I love that our businesses are so different,
Mhm.
but nothing is different. Like the concepts are the
Totally.
same. And that goes for every single business. Like I've yet to talk to someone from a different industry where things don't line up and aren't the same. And it's just the way that things are. So I love it. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you for giving me your time and just being open to share about motherhood, business, and separation, because I feel like that's the journey I'm on. So many other people are feeling it. I get messages every single day trying to figure out what to do. And I just hope people hearing other stories can help them know that they're not alone. It's actually not as scary on the other side if it's what feels aligned in your heart. So thank you so much for being here. I appreciate it. And just where can people find you really fast? Like, I know I'll link everything. So Bold Beginnings, I think it's just boldbeginnings.com.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
exactly.
so I'll link that in the show notes, and then maybe just your Instagram handle, like where can people find you and connect with you?
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you so much for having me on. It's such an honor. We'll definitely have to
Yeah.
have a in real life
Yes.
forest walk or something.
Yeah.
My handle is just Tara Bosch
Okay.
on Instagram.
Love it. Amazing. Okay, I'll include those in the show notes. Thank you so much for being here.
Yeah. Thank you for having me.
Okay, I'm stopping the recording.